This section you're about to see is going to contain spoilers. So if you haven't watched the film, go watch that first. Don't watch this.
There you go.
This one's going to be called Chill.
My name is Jesse DeFranco, and I'm the writer of Sick Transit Gloria.
I'm Jonathan Klein. I was the director for Sick Transit Gloria. Yeah, Jesse and I are cousins.
We are.
I think that's why a lot of the
Also
process of making it, we are friends too.
John and I think cousins, friends, lovers, coworkers, everything you can think of. Yeah, I would say that we talked about writing something for a while.
Yeah.
John and I have always, since we were little, loved filmmaking in general. As we got older, always talked about what we would write if we did make something together. And then we started kind of spitballing ideas back and forth for a long time. And when John first came to me with the idea of this, it was kind of like it just clicked right away. Like that's the story we should be telling. John first came to me with the idea.
Looks like it was February 2016 was when we first actually started making the concepts.
Wow.
I have this idea, this vision of this world full of kids. They've sort of taken over. There's no sort of guidance in their life. There's no sort of purpose to what they're doing, but they're all still doing it, and it's almost like this tragic scenario. From that statement alone led to probably like an hour-long conversation just about what that world looks like. And we started sort of mapping all that out before we even asked ourselves, how did this happen? It was just kind of like, this is the world we're living in. From there, we mapped out who our character is going to be, what themes are we trying to tackle, what are we trying to say with this, and we wanted to be sure that we had all that figured out before we started diving into the writing. So I wouldn't say that we necessarily had, every letter of the alphabet figured out going into it, but we knew all of our big stops, all the big points we wanted to make.
Jesse was bringing the style of really focusing on the characters and really breathing life into the story, and mine was more just kind of the basic structure of the film. So if a character needed to get from here to there, that was all I was really doing with the film, was just making sure that character gets from A to B, and Jesse was bringing to life everything in between there.
And to add on to that, I think a strong strength on John's part is just that he's a visual guy. He knows directing really well. So when it came to actually writing a scene, I can see it in my head and how I want things to look, but he actually saw it through the lens of the camera and said, this is how it's going to look when I shoot it. Obviously, you can write so much in a script and make it sound as good as you want, but when it comes to writing a screenplay, it's meant to be seen. So if you're talking to a director who knows how I'm going to bring this to life as you're writing it, it grounds you and it creates the structure you need to keep going with it. That strength that he had, I thought, was extremely helpful. I think the easiest way to look at it is to say you have Jonas and Mason, and within those two characters you have good and evil, and then you have sort of the chess piece in between them, which is Alice. But in doing that, we wanted to create characters who weren't specifically just good and evil. As bad as Mason is, we also wanted to show you a world that he would fit into, and almost show you how this character would have grown with a world like this. So it's not just saying this is the bad guy. We're showing you this is a guy who's adapted to his surroundings. In Jonas, we obviously wanted him to be sort of the guiding light with Alice, but also didn't want you to see a guy who was just perfect regardless of his surrounding. We wanted him to be very conflicted as well. And I think you do see that from the very beginning, that this is a guy who has probably not done the greatest things in order to survive, but he's always had a sense of these are the things I need to do. We also wanted to show that the arrival of Alice also brings out a side of these characters that they maybe didn't have before. So as Jonas is sort of the good one in this story, you also get the sense of, it might be because of this light that's now arrived that's kind of making him this way. I think that our characters are all extensions of the world we created. As we said, that was the first step of it. And then who could we make that would live there? Mason is kind of like, you're full throttle into this. What does that character look like? Who's completely just a product of his environment? That's Mason. All the bad things you see about it, that's him. And then Alice was the one who was kind of like, if someone was oblivious to what was going on, had been sort of living under a rock all this time and woke up into it, what would she look like? So she was almost like our poster child for the innocence in that way. And then Jonas was basically the one who was conflicted, who thought that I know where we're going and I feel like this is wrong. So that's kind of how the main three were sort of constructed.
I knew I did not want to have quite as big of a role as I had in our last film, The Tale of the Sparrow, which I was the lead. Because a lot of my favorite scenes in The Sparrow didn't have me in it. In order
Those
to
are my favorite scenes in The Sparrow too.
Most people. With the initial main characters, with that stage, I knew Jesse was going to be a part of it, and to just make sure that it wasn't conflicting with any casting, Jesse kind of took a step back at that point. Once I had Jesse cast in the role, and I knew he was going to be great for playing Jonas because naturally he kind of filled out that character. Once he was cast in his role, Jesse kind of came back in and helped with the rest of the casting. We got a bunch of people that we thought would be good in different roles, had them start acting out some of the longer scenes. They'd read through, but while the main characters were reading their lines, we had all of them in the background, figuring out how they would exist in this world. It was really amazing that night. People in the right age roles saying the lines to us and us not having to read. It's not my voice or your voice reading it.
Oh, I wouldn't worry too much. Your secret's safe with me. Old friend.
You aren't my friend, Mason.
Good old Jonas. Mr. Maddox. If we aren't friends, then what are we, Jonas? Enemies?
John and I wrote it for so long, thinking like, will we ever actually make this? Seeing them read it was my realization of we're actually boarding this ship, and this is actually like, this is gonna happen. We're actually gonna make this movie. So it was like a exciting, scary feeling all at once. For this movie, we have a primarily younger cast for it. We ended up going to, was Jugged Theater or Jugged Theater? Yeah.
Jugged Lyric Theater in Chardon.
They let us do casting through them. We had an open casting call for it. A lot of parents were great, brought their kids who wanted to be a part of a movie for the summer, came and auditioned for us. Kids memorized monologues. They read scenes from the movie. They read together.
We warned them how dark it was.
we gave them because John had done The Sparrow. You know, a lot of parents would actually come in and say, like, "Oh, is this going to be on par with The Sparrow?" And we had to be like, "Well, no, not at all."
Yeah, so it's not really humorous.
It's not a comedy.
You coward! Okay!
This is more of an action drama. There's no language in it. There's no innuendo in it. There will be some violence in it. We're not going to exploit that too much. We're excited the fact that drew them in, but we also had to let them down by saying this is going to be very, very different from The Sparrow. You're going to be doing a lot of different things in this movie.
Aaron Kumis showed up there.
He actually kind of complicated things because we thought we had it figured out, and then Aaron came in and kind of blew us away. We're like, okay, this kind of changes everything.
Yeah.
Which was a good problem to have. When I look at the cast now, when we were filming, I can't imagine it being any different from the way it turned out. One thing we did get right with this movie, if not anything else, was it does have a good cast. If it's bad, I will not take credit for anything else other than the cast.
Yeah, we had an idea for the look. There's going to be a dark world. There's a few clean things that you'll see throughout the film. Mm-hmm. And in order to make those stand out, everything else had to be dirty. April worked with us. She was the costumer. She worked with us to make sure that all the costumes had been burnt, bleached, dirtied up, destroyed.
And now we are burning the clothes. A war-torn world.
First thing you did when you get on set, you'd go over to the barn and you would get dirty makeup put on your face.
She was great at finding the right clothes too, because another thing with it was we didn't want to put a timestamp on the movie with the clothing either. And that was one that we found all these clothes that looked natural enough and looked like they can really come from any time period.
Kind of a new camera setup. It was going to be for full K. Also, we did have a Steadicam rig that, you know, I just became best friends with throughout the process. Almost every scene in the film
is done. Steadicam one of the first nights we started writing. You got the Steadicam.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant before. Where it's like he knew how he wanted to shoot it right away.
Well, once we had that idea, and you said this is what it's going to look like, and I just knew then. Yeah,
he got a Steadicam right then at that conversation. He was online ordering one.
Everything is absolutely natural lighting throughout the entire film. The only parts that are quote unquote unnatural would be that there's a lantern that shows up in, I think, 4 scenes. We just wanted to make sure that the cast at least got to meet each other and see who's in what role so that when they're reading through it, it's easier for them to know. They came in, they got costumes. Once they were done with that, they went over, they talked to Jesse about the basics of their characters. They could start learning their lines. He gave them their script.
Yes. So Frank and Demetrius are actually twins. So you're going to be Frank, you're going to be Demetrius. You're going to have a backstory in there, you're going to have a kid's book, you're going to have a CD, which consists of what their favorite songs would be. So it's not necessarily songs that they listen to in front of everybody, but it's like their personal favorite songs. Our kids' book is theirs because there's a few scenes in the movie where they do read kids' books, and people have different interpretations of them. So when you read this, try to think of how would my character perceive this. Curtis? Yes.
You're gonna have a rough ride, buddy.
Yeah. Oh no. It's like if I gave you the details, you'd leave. It's actually a really good part, and it's going to be some really good scenes, and we're going to make them as intense as we possibly can, but it's really just brutal kind of stuff. So it's going to be good though. Like, we're really looking forward to it.
They came over to me, checked the schedule, confirmed anything, moved any dates around that we needed to, and
I do that. That's pretty cool.
And got them out of there, as soon as possible. Just trying to keep it as efficient as possible, as lean as possible, and keep things going.
Get that camera out of here.
The house, people didn't like filming inside of unless you really wanted to get into your character. Because it was dark, it was depressing.
Hey, check out this house.
All right, let's do it.
The house has been on Hoarders, so this is not the first time the house has been filmed before. We hadn't been living in it for a while. The owners, they allowed us to go inside and film. It turned out to be exactly what we needed. The house looks like it had been abandoned for a little while, because it has, and there was still stuff in it, furniture enough to make the place look like it's quote-unquote livable.
Anybody else would have seen that house and said this is a terrible place to be. John and I said this is the perfect place to film a movie. It really, I mean, the house really was exactly what we had written about and what we wanted to see. So for us, the house was a dream come true.
Today is the first day of filming.
So the first shot of the film is actually the first day we ever started filming.
We are actually filming the sunset, and we're going to play it in reverse.
That initial sunrise coming up, that was actually some of the first stuff we filmed.
Luckily, John caught that the sun was about to go behind a big cloud front. Luckily, we got that shot, though.
There's not a ton that happens in that scene, but we were out there for a few hours just making sure we got the shots right, because we really wanted to. The first scene is really what's going to set the precedent. You're going to look back at that and see exactly what it looked like in order to continue that same style throughout the whole film.
First shot.
We went out, got that one right, sent it over to Jesse, had him take a look and give me his pointers, and we were off and running.
Hey, Annalise. Yes? How do you feel about your first day of shooting? Good?
John, myself, Andrew, our composer, and one of the actors in the movie, all said let's take a week where we just, well, a week, 9 days, where we just completely focus on this movie and nothing else. So we stayed at a house right down the street from the house we were filming at, basically filmed around the clock. We weren't filming, we were back at the house we were staying at. Andrew was writing music, John was editing, we were doing some rewrites with the script. We were constantly just working on it.
So we got quite the setup. We got an electric piano for scoring, and then, you know, sleeping quarters. Then in here, we have John's editing room. Yeah, he brought his own computer. This is where we will be staying for over a week.
We got a lot of our creative ideas flowing too. And that was helpful just to have all the creative people behind the project together.
About 70% of the film was all filmed within about 1 week.
Today is day one of Sick Transit Gloria's film week.
Exciting.
Hey Jesse, what are we doing right now?
Filming a movie.
We're filming a movie. What scene?
Oh, I don't know. You gotta ask John.
Right after the attack.
Right after the attack. So we're trying to figure out who dies, right?
Yes.
Who's dead? Who dies? She dies.
I'm dead.
Those
Death positions.
death positions.
Wow. That's the best way you thought to put that, huh?
I died.
No, because you're in a scene after this.
My cold dead hands are reddish.
I didn't even notice. So this is it. We got Jonas's house. Got the main tent where all the kids, all the other people sleeping out here. Break time for Alice's character.
I'm the only one who isn't in this scene.
That's a good thing to not be in this scene. There's dead people everywhere. Yeah.
So is everybody else gonna come up?
Alright, Aaron, you gonna be my stand-in for this?
Stand-in?
Standing.
Extra
Know what you're gonna
responsibility.
do?
Getting some tattoos for filming tomorrow, based on some material I gave her of Jonas's favorite things. April and myself did both agree that Jonas would love Mary Poppins very much. Southern accents kind of became a thing tonight for some reason.
So this is just a tube extruding like a cake, decorating it.
All right.
She's basically baking a cake over here.
It's actually like a Hannah.
She got a friend named Hannah that she decided to name this after. I don't know why. I don't know why. All right, I think we're gonna call this a wrap for tonight. This is day one of film week for Sick Transit Gloria signing out.
Jesse, what day of filming is this?
This is going to be day 2. It's the morning of day 2.
Yeah.
We're all just getting out because we got a lot of set up today.
Hey, get that on my face.
Mason was a character I think that was obviously dear to both John and my heart in the sense that he's a tough one to write, and he's very much the center of the movie. So I had spoken in length with, I think, each actor about their part, except for Connor going into it. And for being such a big role, that created a little bit of nervousness on my part as to when he steps onto set, how ready is he going to be, how fleshed out is the character going to be. And we filmed one of the ending scenes where Mason kind of has this really big, grand sort of moment, and Connor stepped on, didn't know his lines perfectly well, but still was Mason right away. So to me, it was like, okay, we're in good company. He knows what he's doing. This is going to be okay. I'm watching that character he brought to life. I'm watching this great actor bring it to life, and I'm realizing that moving forward, this character's in safe hands.
Yeah, I had a cameo. I think I'm in the film for about 2 minutes, and I get shot in the face by Jesse.
We thought that was the most appropriate place to put him in. He first came to me and said, should I be in the movie? And I said, no. Then I went back and I wrote a scene where my character shoots another character in the face, and I said, John, I changed my mind. I think I have someone for you to play.
Just really wanted to make sure that this character got accomplished without being on screen too much. A little more rough than some of the other characters that were on set, so you could kind of see this guy as somebody who might cause trouble. I ended up actually dyeing my hair blonde. Had a full-blown mohawk for those scenes. In the actual casting part of it, we met some of the kids when we did the casting, and I had short dark hair, and then when the kids actually showed up and the parents were coming to drop off, they just see me standing there in a tank top and with a blonde mohawk, and I think some red flags went up. In order to prepare for the fight, me and Finn, who played Frank in the film, we got together, we practiced out what we wanted the fight to look like in the actual location where it ended up being filmed. We then went to a guy who kind of did some MMA in the past, the Ox is what he was known as. We went to him, he kind of took our fight, took each piece of it, and then showed us how it would actually be done.
We want it to look pretty realistic. And they're fighting to the death. Yeah. Kind of. So very desperate.
So we had stuff that was looking almost like stage fighting. So he showed us, okay, if you're gonna actually do it, here's what that fight would actually look like.
A bunch of to break free. Oh, okay. Okay. You're gonna change your level and go like that. Kind of tussling here, and then I drop and I fall, and you just keep rolling, and then I'm on top, so you lunge there. Yeah. There you go.
We did it, and I think it helped to really make that scene feel intense. And I just remember that night we were ready for it.
All right, so Jesse, where are we heading? So we are heading to film a scene tonight where there's gonna be a big fight between Ralph and Frank. All right, and this is the set right here.
This is the setup right here.
And this is actually the grave for the funeral. And here is the setting. John, say something epic to the camera.
Epic.
There it is.
We did a practice, felt pretty good, crowd was feeling good about it, and then we told them to light up their torches, and the torches lit up, the place got a little bit warmer, a lot brighter, and things got really real, really fast.
Shirts are coming off. Whoa! PK! Chanting begin. Chanting begin. Alice, action.
What day is it?
I don't know, the third day of the week of filming. We initially wanted the attack to all be one take, but then realizing that the scene that kind of led into it, it might be good to have a conversation kind of lead right into it.
You still have it in there where he fires at someone opening the door?
Yeah.
Why do you look this way?
Because I'm going to be attacking the house.
Why?
I was depressed for a long time, and I just needed a new motive in my life, so I started just raiding people's houses.
And that was kind of we just gradually found ourselves becoming a little bit more ambitious and cocky maybe as we kept filming. As we saw, there was a good 3 pages of dialogue between Jonas and Alice, which led right into this big attack scene. And I think John and I looked at the script and said, what if we did do this as one take? And we knew that wasn't going to be easy, but we thought it was possible.
Here? Ooh, John, it could even be the dog collar.
Because he already have it. I just look at the collar and throw it.
So we tackled it that way. We knew that not only was there 3 pages of dialogue, but it was a highly emotional scene too.
Yeah.
And we're working with Annalise, younger actress, and so getting all that down, going right into this big attack, choreographing that whole thing, it was pretty big. But I thought that the payoff from it, I thought, was amazing.
All right, Annalise, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do this. And I'm gonna run towards the window that gets shot so that they can actually see a gunman running. Come on, go, downstairs.
So I think that is one of the scenes in the movie that people will remember from both a technical standpoint and just, I think, the emotion going right into this high intensity scene makes it all the more effective. So I think it looks great.
Just finished up a difficult scene today. Day 3 of Six Transit Gloria Film Week completed. Yeah! Well, hey guys.
Andrew.
Hey, we kind of finished day 3 of filming kind of early, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like still light out pretty much. That's nice. Hey, you know what we should do?
Walmart run! Treat yourself. I'm gonna treat myself with some Ex Machina. I'm gonna treat myself with some Godfather. Something a little bit classy. Treat yourself.
Green Mile, and some Beyond the Mat, and some The Town, and The Watch. Treat yourself. Treat yourself. Root beer. Treat yourself. Just saying words, no big deal. Treating myself, mind your own business. Woo! Treat yourself. Can't just not get them. Treat yourself. Treat yourself. Today's what you call a treat yourself kind of day. Skipping. We don't care about cholesterol today. Treat yourself.
Then add effects looking through it.
Hello. Treat yourself. Okay.
Okay, Walmart.
Yourself. Treat yourself.
Treat yourself.
The beer is obviously Jesse.
Treat yourself. 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 Treat yourself complete. Woo!
Yeah! Day 4, everyone. Day 4.
I'm wearing pants.
The first scene we're filming is right after the attack. So everyone in here is going to look a bit more like this.
Just look through things.
That's going to be the general look, except for this guy who didn't do his part. Take off of this guy.
Unbuttoning the button down.
And now he's slow swaying
Backwards and then
to
that up all the way.
whatever that is. We are filming all the Jonas room conversation scenes that take place in his room with Nicholas, Jonas, Ryan, Demetrius, people like that. Okay, stop. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be dramatic. Nicholas is gonna beat up Jonas quite a bit.
A coward and a peasant and a child.
Ooh, okay. Oh gosh! You should crank it up to 12.
Just be screaming, and he should be like, this should all be like one loud just noise.
Yeah.
And feel free to just like grab when you want to. Because this is kind of like, you've always been Jonas's henchman, and now you're finally like, I'm not listening to you anymore. I
can do this better myself.
Right, exactly, yeah.
I think I'm gonna pull out the Harrison Ford angrily point.
Yeah, right.
Oh gosh!
Thought about that though?
I had a rough night. Drank a little too much.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're gonna take it up to about 400 feet, and then I'm just gonna point it down, see what happens. If you'd like to keep your seatbelts on and get into the crash positions, that'd be okay, but I think it'd be cooler if we all put our hands up.
You won't do it.
Thanks for flying with us today.
Wait, what?
So that's where we're heading to just film a quick scene of this guy right here grabbing a lantern.
What?
So it takes place up there. They're about to film the scene. Super exciting. I think that was the performance of the movie right there. Well, it's day 5. Day 5 of film week. Jesse, you excited for today? Yes. It's a very hot day, about 90 degrees. Probably 100% humidity. All right, we got it. Are you ready to be a psycho? Oh yeah.
It's a little cage.
All right. I have an apple for him.
Are we doing our scene first?
How many apples do we have?
I mean, I eat apples like nobody's business.
That's a lot of apples. There's definitely some history between you and Jonas. Like the reason you're in the shed is because something must have happened that they said we can't trust you to be in the house anymore. Like you're just too out of your mind. You're too crazy. You're doing.
You probably were in the house at some point.
Right.
And got kicked out.
Peas with the door open.
Maybe.
Mason, get in here. Leave the milk out of the. You're out. You're living in the shed.
Mason always seems to know everything. There's always something about Mason where it's like, this guy knows all my insecurities, all the things I don't want people to know about, he already knows. And the real reason Jonas probably kicked you out was because he thought if anyone's going to discover my parents are here, it's Mason. And in a way, I almost fear he already knows. So you're always trying to, like you said, one step ahead, always kind of getting into those insecurities of other people. So you always kind of seem like you know more than you're letting on.
How do you know? Exactly.
We knew from writing how intense it was going to be to film that one. I think step one with that was casting it right.
What do you know?
I'll never tell you where the gold is.
It's not a huge role in the grand scheme of the movie, but it's such a tough role to play. And I think you found...
It's Hunter.
Hunter, yeah.
So there I was in a barn, tied up. There I was, all by myself.
Who I thought really brought that to life. And when you watch it, you really feel the weight of it. And I like to say that, oh, that's just, that's just the movie magic, but it was that way when we filmed it. It felt extremely intense and extremely realistic.
It's about a 5-minute take, and we're getting through it one time, and everything's working out. The cameras matching up, where we're following the right action throughout the scene, and then we get through it again. A 5-minute take. We added on to the end. Good job, Curtis. So it was a line that Mason was going to say to Curtis after the other boys had left. And just seeing the scene a couple times, it felt like it was necessary there. We get through it. We're going through this long take. Everything's working out great. It stops. The boys walk out of the barn. The final lines are said. Mason then looks over at Curtis and says,
"Good job, Jonas."
Connor's head, who played Mason, Connor's head pops up, looks at the camera, and caught himself from swearing. It was great. Yeah. Other takes were technically usable, but really we wanted to make sure we got that one right, and I think it definitely stands out in the film.
Good. Jack's the best, man, Jack.
And I've said all I can legally say.
That was a fun scene. He knew his lines and the other characters' lines better than I did. So it was he came on the set. It went a lot faster than I thought it was going to.
He knew his lines and he knew Connor's lines.
Yes,
I think Connor messed up and he was feeding Connor lines.
Yes. I messed up a line.
And he
was
corrected
like,
you.
I think it's supposed to be, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, Jack.
Good old Jack.
You're correct.
No, I was really happy with the way that the scene ended up looking. He's a very young actor, and so it was really amazing to see what he was able to do with a little bit of dialogue in the film.
Yeah, he memorized the monologue and he came in audition, so
yeah,
he's very impressive.
Well, you know how to play bowling. And tell you something else? No, that's all.
Great.
Would you agree that this day might be the longest film day we have?
Could be. There's a lot of scenes to do. It's all dialogue, though.
Yeah, that's true. That can go either way, I guess.
That is actually true. We found out yesterday that sometimes just dialogue scenes can last the longest.
Yeah.
Screw down. Setting for Sick Transit Gloria basement scene.
Ready, Anna Banana? 1, action. Cut. Good.
What were you laughing?
We did the treat yourself video.
Wake up. Got it. Run your hand along an Annalise to feel a fabric. Cut. Beautiful.
That's it for the basement scenes. Only took one
day.
Last day in this house. It's a very sad day, but a very good day because we got a lot done.
It's really raining out here.
Okay.
Check the weather, check the schedule. Had to be today, huh?
Yeah, we have more extras.
I don't think we can do it with the lightning and stuff, especially with little kids coming out.
Yeah.
No way they can light a campfire either way.
I think we'll have to postpone filming today. Because it got a lot heavier this morning. We're just past weekend and we had our first rain delay. So we are driving and Andrew's back there following me. We're gonna go back to my place and start contacting people to let them know about the delay and that we'll be rescheduling. Here we go. This is Ohio filmmaking right here. All kinds of weather.
Last day. Day 9. We got the kitchen scenes today. Got a lot of good scenes in there. And so let's get started.
So Annalise, do you feel complete as Alice now that you have that blanket?
Yes.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen who aren't here, the film week is over, but now we just have a few more weekends left, and this puppy should be wrapped up beautiful.
Well, I'd play with Roman a lot at the end of the day, and I was playing with him one day and lying down with him on the ground, and Andrew, he and Roman were like cuddling together, and I'm like, yeah, he's like a big teddy bear. And Andrew goes, I do declare that it's a teddy bear.
I do declare that is a teddy bear.
And for the rest of that film week, I could not get any funnier line out of my head.
He's a big dog, so you'd think he'd be naturally a little intimidating, but he's he's really lazy. We took more takes with him. He was by far the biggest diva in the film. Took a lot to get him to move. In the scene where he walks up to Alice, we had treats, we had peanut butter hidden behind her, and
Paul
still
wouldn't go.
Not Paul, I'm talking about the dog.
I got a peanut butter boy.
You guys have any peanut butter?
If you can lift up your lip a little bit. Yeah, so that's where we put the peanut butter.
Yep.
And then he would do this.
Yeah.
And then we just mouth his lines later.
We are downtown, Cleveland, Ohio.
Evan and Doug, they did an awesome job.
So, who are you playing, Evan?
Trevor. He's just a bad dude. Territorial and paranoid. Doesn't put up with anything that he doesn't understand.
And Evan's makeup is completed. There it is.
I look like this every morning.
It went smoothly. We did have to take some precautions to make sure, because we're acting out violence. We were doing it in the middle of Cleveland. People could be driving by, watching it. It could look pretty weird.
And that probably was our most explicitly violent scene. Others are more the suggestion of violence. But I think this one actually is more showy than the other ones are.
All right, so we have a sponge. What do we have?
It's just acrylic paint.
And water.
See it now.
Okay.
And we got the sponge is right in there. Huh?
Yeah. All ready, Jesse?
Yep.
Action.
We did notice while we were filming that we looked over and there was a security guard in the parking lot next to us. Even in scenes where we weren't gathering audio for the shot, we would still have the long boom mic hanging out over the actors in order to make it appear as if it was, much more of a production and it wouldn't be mistaken for anything else. Yeah, using the megaphone a lot more than we actually did on set.
Why are you guys in the city to begin with, though?
Just to kind of recollect where Alice came from. Jonas is giving her a little bit of background on what's going on. They decided to get off the farm for a little bit because things are pretty tense there. Take a drive into the city. Alice sort of retraces her steps. This is where I came from. They're driving, and as soon as she says, I've seen these buildings before, they stop and get out. Jonas sort of gives her the 5,000-foot view of what's going on, spoken in a lot of metaphor. He then ends with the line, "This is really happening." Comes from a Radiohead song that we listened to a lot while writing this. Our one quick nod to our influences is that line.
They both were great. I mean, they both looked how we wanted them to look. I think we actually gave them lines that weren't even in the script because they were both actually really great actors and wanted to do as much as they could. So we ended up giving them a little bit of room to sort of spread their wings and show what they can do. They did a great job with working with Annalise as Alice. I was really happy with that.
You know, this, at first, if somebody knows you guys are out there, it could be the end for you guys. But then it's clearly this Alice, this little girl that you've been hearing about from your son all this time. So you've been up there for a while. Your son's been keeping you sheltered from these people. There's no way to get out. The house is surrounded by kids constantly. So this is the first situation where you might be able to get out. Your characters had a daughter that passed away long before any of this took place.
Okay.
And Jonas is your last remaining son. He's a little bit older than her. She would be about her age when she died.
They were great. They were more than willing to be on set and to help out as much as they could. Even though they were really only needed for a couple scenes there, they were more than willing to say, hey, if you want to try a few more takes, let's do it. And so we did, and actually some of those later shots were the ones we ended up using for the film. They left a really big impact on me as a viewer.
What did we just do? We pretty much wrapped up all the character scenes. Mason finished today. Demetrius finished today. Tristan finished today. Micah finished today. Aaron finished today. Jesse's done stuff. John, what are we doing?
We are filming the
We're filming
that for the end of the movie. The movie begins with the sunrise and it ends with the sunset.
Andrew and I took the truck out, practiced the shot a few times before sunset. We were going to practice it one more time, realized that it was time to go because the sun was going down. We got out there, I got out on the street with the camera and the rig, and he drove down the street.
I'm escaping! So hopefully that was successful.
Right as you went over, it was like...
Yes!
And we were able to catch it right at the right time. So that film actually does end right there on a real sunset. The cast was actually usually in pretty good morale. Certain nights I was laughing way too much for what was actually happening in the scene.
Stay here.
Me and you, Andrew, Jonathan too.
Ready to see a bloody fight to the death?
We are.
Yeah.
No, your character's not ready. You intervene.
My character isn't, but...
Hey Jess, why don't you sing us a song?
Alright.
When John and I wrote it, we'd have a lot of dark music playing and we'd kind of have these dark conversations. So I almost thought filming was going to be an extension of that, and I kind of prepared myself for that, but it really was anything but. It helps to be able to say cut and then kind of like unwind and shake it off a little bit, and to know that we were all still friends and it was all still okay. I think if we were staying in this dark atmosphere the entire time, we all probably would have driven ourselves a little bit crazy.
We'll talk about what we're gonna do and then we'll come back. That was sick.
Yeah, you like that?
Dirtbag.
Doesn't it actually really hurt though if you get shot with CO2?
Beautiful, beautiful, Jesse, beautiful.
The way that we did the film, I would take each individual scene, go through the footage, review it, drop it into the timeline, and just do them kind of in scene batches, kind of in the idea of them almost as if they were chapters. We'd edit them out, just kind of get a rough idea so we'd see pacing of the film, render those out, send them over to Jesse, he'd give me his notes, I'd go back, make some of those changes. We gathered up one night, kind of put the scenes into a batch, or at least attempted to, and then watched the whole film through, just a really rough cut to see what it was like and kind of see what moments stood out to us.
I think we noticed a little bit of audio issues we're going to play with.
This is Aaron moving stuff around in the back of the truck audio. Whenever you're ready, John.
What's on the agenda for today?
Nothing.
How's that working out for you?
Warm, but it's getting colder.
Yeah, it is.
How's it going? Man? How you doing? Attack on the farm. There's a ton that happens within the scene, a lot of stuff we had to do, but the camera work isn't really that difficult. The biggest thing that happened in post-production was the audio for that scene. Shot! There's guns outside, there's the screaming kids, there's like different voices yelling. It all has to match up with where they're positioned in the house and all that stuff.
Are you okay?
Alice, you can't be in here. I told you I'd meet you downstairs.
I heard noises. Are you okay?
Alice, you can't be in here.
I heard noises.
Alice, did you ever...
I made you cry a lot longer than I had to. Cut. Good.
Music-wise, we need some more music for it.
And a big inspiration during the writing process was the music.
Yeah.
And so that's a key pivotal part to this film.
Exactly like this, Andrew. This is exactly what I want this scene to be.
So John first called me and told me about the film about a year before filming. He told me him and Jesse were working on a drama and that they wanted me to score it. They were still writing it, but he could give me at least the basic world that it existed in. A main theme finally arose out of the melodies I was experimenting with, which finally became the main theme for Sic Transit Gloria. So when the film week finally came around, I brought my scoring piano with me. During our downtime when we weren't filming, Jesse would show me some of the music that he and John were inspired by. And he showed me this one song, and when I was listening to it, it sounded like a melody that I had actually come up with about 5 years prior. And that melody eventually became the violin piece that was used in the dress scene and the finale for the movie. A few months after filming and editing, John, Jesse, and I got together and we just, for 2 days straight, figured exactly what we wanted to do with the music. Okay, so practically the entire score is digitally put together except for 3 key elements. Michaela Klein lent us her singing talents for some of the humming in the film. Which I really think added to the range of what the score could be. Paul Yulee, who was also in the movie, he recorded a guitar and humming piece for the middle of the film. It was perfect. It was exactly what we wanted.
Andrew, what's going on here tonight?
Recording live music for Sic Transit Gloria.
Who's hooking us up?
Paul Yulee over there, sound designing wizard.
Look at this wizard. Right now it just kind of looks like you're floating in like the blackness of nothingness. Yes.
That's pretty sweet.
He got us into this massive church with this beautiful Steinway grand piano, and we were there for hours and hours just recording all the different piano parts. And when Paul sent us the recordings of what we recorded that night, I was just blown away. It was the exact quality that we wanted. It was eerie. It was perfect. But overall, it was a blast. It was a lot of fun. It was an incredible thing to be a part of.
When John first came to me with the idea of it, what was interesting was I had just saw a quote that said, "We're a generation that's drowning in knowledge but starving for wisdom." So we were always toying with the idea of what happens when you have so much knowledge being put into this generation but not the wisdom to go along with it. So all of a sudden I'm getting this false sense of confidence, like I know all these things, but I have no necessarily guidance of where to place them. And by taking away any adult figure in someone's life, that's what you're kind of left with, no real moral compass. So we always wanted to explore that, and that's kind of what our ground for Sick Transit was the exploration of this generation who has no morals to go along with this confidence that they now have, and that's what kind of fueled the world they're living in.
A big message of it is you don't necessarily get clear answers into a lot of things that the viewer might want to see, and that is intentional. Yeah. It's a part of the message as well. People feeling like they have a lot of knowledge and not realizing what things they do know, what things they don't know, and what things they should know.
No matter how terrible things can be, you always have a choice in the matter as well, and you can always choose which way you want things to go. So that's something we want to be part of it as well, as even though things can look like they're terrible and you have to become a part of it, you can choose to kind of go against the grain and be the difference, and that's sort of the main thing, I guess, that's part of it as well.
There's a bit of a hurdle of realizing that this is something so different than what we've done in the past. Rather than people just leaving with, that was pretty good, for them switching over to a new genre, I really would like to see that people do come out of it with the focus on the storyline. So that's my personal goal. Whether or not it's achievable, we'll find out, but that's really what I'm hoping to see.
I think movies can be a really cathartic experience, and I think if people go into it taking it 100% seriously, which we hope they do, and put all notions of what John and I have done in the past aside and say, I'm going to take this movie for what it is, I think it's a movie that does kind of force people to come face to face with things that they might be afraid of, with maybe a setting that they fear could happen one day that they're now looking at, with people that they may have seen glimpses of in their everyday life they're now coming face to face with. And I think that coming out of that, they can almost feel like, I've just seen the worst of something, how bad something could be. And I think that could be a very cathartic and healthy experience. Yeah, I hope that it is haunting in a lot of ways, and I hope it is kind of eye-opening in a lot of ways, and I hope that they're able to see the time and skill that went into it, and I hope they're able to appreciate it for that. That's what I hope, that if it just sparks some kind of discussion, if it stays in your mind for a little while and you think it over, and if it kind of has that effect on you, I'll be happy.
Where's Jack? Jack, what are you doing?
We're talking about you being 5.
Sit. Next year.
Next year.
Next year? Next. Wait. No.
No, I was gonna say it again. He's gonna. Jack, wait. This year. Okay.
Yeah, this year I'm 5.
And
then the next year
the
I'm
next.
gonna be 6.
There it is.
Oh, okay. We got it.
This year he's.
Next year. That's what he's saying. Now he's 5.
Now
Next year.
6.
Over
Okay.
here.
Gotcha.
So wait, this category's 5. Yeah.
Okay, that's
6. So this category currently is 5. This category is 6. Right now,
5.
He's in the category.
Right now,
in this category.
Okay, Jack, move over there. We need the visual. Move over here.
You'll be in this category.
Okay, so let's pretend you're 5 years old.
Okay, this is 5. This is 5.
Here. 5.
Say here.
That's exactly. This is 6.
No.
Use this. Okay. Sorry. This is gonna be 5.
Get the carefully built this.
That's 5. That is now 5.
He built this.
That is. That's 5.
Okay. 5.
Now it comes into this.
Now, where are you going? This cannot be touched, so we gotta move on. That's next year. That's next year.
That's next year.
That's next year.
5, and then over here would be 6.
Okay. So so this is when he's 5. This is 5.
Yes, that's exactly.
And this
right.
represents the year 5.
This represents the year 5.
Okay, and then this
represents the year 6.
Okay.
It's not sitting. So he's not.
But he's not there.
He's
He's not there. He's there. So that means that must mean that he's 5.
He's here.
He's
but
5.
if I were to carry a 1 over to here, it becomes 6.
Okay, you're
now.
No. You just added math.
Wait a minute. No. This is 6.
This
is still 6.
Sure so so we have 2 categories. We have 2 categories.
There's 2 categories.
I thought that was 5. Now what?
No. Annalise is gonna shed a little light on this one.
Guys, I don't think we're thinking hard enough about this. Okay, I think we really need to get our heads together, think straight about this. Okay.
Can I? What if he would be right?
No, that's it. 6.
Well, this is
We're over here with a 5. And don't let him here with a 5.
He's calculating.
Okay. Let's get a clear visual of this.
With just 5.
5.
6 fingers. Wait.
Whoa!
Thumb fingers?
That's not a finger. I never.
Close the thumb in and put another finger up there.
No, that's. Oh, there's a band-aid on that one.
Yeah, it looks like 6.